any golf lately, and then I got Baker Mayfield with some. I'll just wrap the Watson stuff in there. Just a little something on camps are starting soon. NFL camp should be starting. When is that? A couple weeks or 1 week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think we're at least 2 weeks out. Probably a little bit more than that. Yeah.
I have a little question for you on that, and I didn't tell you ahead of time because I wanted to kind of come off the top of your head.
Okay. I like those. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I didn't want you to think too deeply because you'll understand. It's not complicated, and I just wanted you to come up with like something. The USC UCLA thing. We have KD's trade request. We have the PGA LIV DP Tour thing situation, which is evolving, we'll say, right? And then I got the Brittany Griner thing, and that's it. I don't think we have anything else. Oh, I forgot the Chris Paul.
You said USC UCLA. You got that?
Yeah, I got that in there.
A little bit of Baker. Yep.
I had a Chris Paul quote. You know what? We're a couple of weeks removed now from the championship, so fuck it. I'll bail on that. All right, I think we're good. Was there anything else? I don't think so, right?
I got Katie, USC, UCLA, Baker, 71s, and your question, the Brittany Griner and Goff.
Yeah. Press record, always important.
That's a good idea.
Give it a couple seconds to do what it does. You got any drink there, or are you just?
Yeah, I got a little whiskey and ginger. I want to take it easy because it's going to be a long one tonight. So.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get this going. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Bump and Run. I'm Pete Colasano, joined as always by my good friend Scott Bracey. What's going on, dude?
Good afternoon, sir, and I want to start by wishing you a happy 27th birthday.
Something right around that, right around
just
27.
Add a lot to that number, and we'll figure it out. But now I hope you had a great day, sir. Yesterday was the day.
Yes, turned 49 yesterday. We had a rather relaxing day, we'll say. My son was not feeling so well, so we kept it kind of low key. And maybe it's what was it? What was yesterday? A Wednesday? Wednesday isn't a big birthday celebration day, so maybe we'll do a little something over the weekend. We'll see. You never know. I'm not the biggest birthday celebrator. I don't. When I was from the time I was born till the time I moved out of my parents' house, my birthday. So my birthday is July 6th. We always celebrated on the 4th because it was like everybody had off. It was the 4th of July, a nice barbecue at my parents' house, all that kind of stuff. So to me, my birthday was never like solely about me. It was more of a chance for family to get together, and then there was a birthday cake, but it wasn't so much about me. And to be honest with you, I kind of like it that way. I'm not one. We talked about this with Father's Day. I'm not one to celebrate me very much. I talk about me plenty. I don't need. I don't necessarily need everybody else talking about me or giving me attention. I give myself plenty of attention, so I don't worry about it. But we'll see. Maybe this weekend I'll have a little fun and.
All right, good.
And do that. Have you played any golf lately?
And hope the little guy's feeling better. Obviously,
he's still a little under the weather, but that's okay. He'll be okay. He's actually starting to improve, so we'll get there.
Good.
Have you played any golf lately?
Yes, sir. I played Friday afternoon. I played Sunday afternoon, and I played yesterday afternoon.
Wow, that's nice. 3 rounds in 5 days. And how is it gone?
Friday afternoon. So Friday I shot a 91.
Okay, not bad.
Out at Flanders with Mr. Stavali.
Nice.
Sunday I shot an 80.
I played there one time. No, I played there one time.
Yeah,
but not
I
with
like
Steve.
Flanders. I like the red and gold better, but the blue and white's not bad. It's tough.
Yeah.
I shot an 88 Sunday, but I felt like I struck the ball better on Friday.
The day before. You know what?
Yeah, I felt better about that round than I did Sunday.
Sometimes a specific segment of your game is going very well, so you'll score better. You remember when you and I played together that one time?
Yeah,
and you were all over the place off the tee, but your like pitching wedge in was just stupid.
Oh yeah, 2 years ago. Yes.
And like you were just keeping pace with me. Meanwhile, you couldn't find a fairway if your life depended on it. But you were paid because you were just killing these like gap wedges and short wedge shots.
From 110 in, I was knocking it stiff. Yeah.
So I totally understand what you're talking about because like there's times like that where just if one segment of your game is picking up the slack, especially if it's something in the short game. I remember a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I shot a 78, I think it was, which that's as low as I go.
Oh, dude.
I was chipping bananas. Like I would chip and one putt like every time.
Yeah.
And it was just like one of those days where usually you chip and you're lucky, you feel good if you two putt after you chip.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I was chipping and one putting every time. The rest of my game was okay, but that was so good that, you know, it wasn't necessarily that I played so well, but that part was good. So anyway.
No, for sure. And then yesterday I shot an 86. I played well all around.
That's a really good round.
My putting's not great still, but you know that's what's like holding me back from like consistent 80s.
Yeah.
But I felt off the tee I was mashing it, and then you know it makes golf a lot easier when you're only a 8 or 9 iron in.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
There.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And you're finding
in
it,
the fairway or somewhere.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up playing 2 rounds within 3 days. Like not this past weekend, but the previous weekend. And that was only because a golf outing that I was in like 3-4 weeks ago got postponed. So I played on a Friday and then on a Sunday, which very similar to what you just had.
Yeah.
Shot a 79 on Friday. Like
nice.
Everything was going pretty damn well. The putting was okay, but it wasn't great, but it was good enough to par. I didn't get a lot of birdies. It was just mostly pars. I think I had one birdie. The rest was all par. Everything else was par. But I was in the fairway, you know, you weren't in the woods. I forget who I was talking to recently. I was like, man, he was like, yeah, it's just, you know, I ended up in the woods. I'm like, dude, it's impossible. He was like, I was in the woods so often that I was starting to get pretty good at that, like low lining, you know, 2 iron out of the wood.
Back like 5 iron, like 4 iron.
You know, like, and it's just so hard when that's your second shot, like 3 out of 4 holes. It's hard to score, or at least to keep your score down.
No, because now you're just punching out and you're still you're 210 away still, or whatever it is. It's
like, dude, it's brutal. So both of those rounds, I didn't shoot a 79 the second round. I was more like 84, but I'll take it. But both of them, I was in the fairway. Like I was pretty good off the tee, which is something I've been struggling with the last couple years. The rest of my game is as good as it's going to be for me, a Sunday hacker. You know, I'm not on a tour, so. But off the tee is everything for me, and you know, because my iron play is pretty solid. But if you're hitting irons out of the damn woods, it doesn't matter. You know, your irons aren't your irons. So if I can stay in the fairway,
you can't get your irons over a forest.
Dude, it's brutal. So,
but I remember last year we played together at Cape May National, and the first 2 holes you were in the woods. And
that's what I'm saying.
Whole game off. You were through your whole fuck around.
It ruins everything. It ruins everything because number one, it plays on your head. And number two, you feel my problem is often like I could go right or left. So because of very different reasons. My natural
you can adjust one or the other.
Yes. My natural miss is slightly to the right. But when I start like swinging too hard, or if my hands are too fast because I'm old and I'm not getting full rotation, like your hands get ahead of you. So then you're pulling it left. And it's like, well, like you said, I can adjust if it's one thing all the time, but not if you're going left and right. It's like, okay, where do I aim here? You know, so, but to be even, you know, I would say like I was 3 out of 4 tee shots were fairway or first cut, you know, which you can play like that. You can do okay. So
sometimes off the first cut's a little spongier. It's nice to get under the ball there on that.
I was playing with some guys on Sunday. We were playing in a scramble. I could tell what my score was, just, you know, ballpark it. Because that was my ball that was being used most of the time. So, you know, you have like a 1 club length to move your ball to.
Right.
And he would literally, if I was near the edge, he would literally move he's like, I feel like I get under the ball more. And I'm like, oh.
Definitely.
Okay. If it's a hard fairway, I get that. But like with a nice spongy.
Yeah, if it's manicured and it hasn't been dry, it's better that way too. Are you one of those guys that if you're not driving it well, do you go to an iron or a wood, or do you stick with the driver no matter what?
I will drop to a 3-wood because I hit my 3-wood almost as far as I hit hit my driver. I mean, it might be 10 yards difference.
Are you more accurate?
Not much. If I'm being honest, I'm not a whole lot. Yeah, I'm not a whole lot more accurate with it. I'm a believer, and you know, you mentioned Steve Savali. This is something that I shared with him, and I think it's helped him. I'm a believer that like use the club you're supposed to use, and if you don't do it well, like learn to hit it well. Like like learn to hit a 5-iron, learn to hit your driver, like adjust to the club, not like when I see guys like teeing off with a 5-iron, I'm like, dude, why bother? Like, you're not playing golf. You're just out for a day, and that's fine. If you're just out for a day of drinking and getting away for 4 or 5 hours, that's your business. But I mean, to me, like, I'm not competitive in golf against other players. I'm competitive against myself. I'm looking to get my lowest score. I don't really care what anybody else does. So to me, you need to use the proper club. So if I'm not hitting it properly, then I start thinking, why am I not hitting it properly? Not what else could I use instead?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but mid round, I got a couple buddies who, they do, or they do an assortment through the day, and I'm like, bro, you're never going to figure it out. If you're on your third or fourth club off a tee box.
Yeah, because the club is not the problem.
Correct.
You know what I mean? The club is not your problem.
What does Steve say? It's
something you're doing.
It's the Indian, not the bow or something.
Not the bow. Yeah, sure. Because or not the arrow, which are the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
One. Yeah, it's you. So you're sooner or later, if you like, let's say if you're bad off the tee with your driver and you drop down to a 3-wood, and then that goes south, and you drop down to a 2-iron,
4-iron, or
your problem is your
iron.
swing, and sooner or later it's going to catch up with you, whether you change clubs or not. It's your swing is the problem. So I'm one to say, okay, I'm pulling it. I'll give you a perfect example. The last round I played, I was pulling things to the left again, and I know that means my hands are getting out in front of my hips.
Sure.
So my hands are I haven't it's because I'm older and I'm tight. I have no flexibility. So what I do when I notice I'm doing that is I'll pull like a Hideki Matsuyama and like really pause. At least to me, it feels like a really long pause at the top. This way my hips have a chance to clear, and then I start bombing the shit out of it. But to do that consistently, there's a million things to think of in golf in your swing. So like you'll do that for a little while, and then you're like, well, where are my feet aligned? Where's the ball? Oh, is my and then you forget, dude. You gotta let your hip clear.
Dude, the booze, you get tired, the sun, there's a ton of things. That's why that's why these guys that play 36 a day, that's why they get better. We can't do that, but
right. I won't even survive. I couldn't play it. I just physically couldn't play it. Like my wrists start to hurt.
Well, like you said, I played 18. I played what?
3 rounds in 5 days.
5 days, and my knees are fucking burning today.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, it's awesome. That's awesome to do, but it's a lot. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I got to get back out there soon. If I'm going to hit it in a fairway like this, I want to play more because that's when I can score. Because my irons is my best part of my game. There's no question about it. So if I can get in the fairway, I can get in the 70s, at the very least, the very low 80s. Man. So yeah, 79 was okay. So big news this week. Finally, and there's so many angles to this, but finally Baker Mayfield has been traded to the Carolina Panthers. What was it for? A 5th round conditional? What does that mean exactly, Scott? What does it mean, a 5th round conditional?
I got to be honest with you. I'm not totally sure. I think it's when did the conditional start? The 3rd or 4th round?
I genuinely don't know.
So is it what like people trade? Like how like hockey or baseball, like if the Giants sign Aaron Judge, like they lose their 1st round pick or something like that.
Okay.
Like does that go to the end? Like is it something like that? I never understood.
I don't know. I was kind of taking it as, I was looking back on Carson Wentz. So it was a 2nd round pick unless he started X number of games, and then it became a 1st round pick when Carson Wentz got traded to the Colts. I don't know if that's what it meant. Like, hey, it's 5th round conditional on these conditions. He plays enough, he starts, blah, blah, blah.
The Rangers with hockey. They traded for Andrew Kopp, and if they make if they made the conference finals, the Rangers lose their 1st round pick. So they made the conference finals, and then people
it's a conditional.
And you take it. You're like, oh yeah, we made the conference finals
because exactly. So I'm assuming it's something like that. So before we even get into the trade itself or what it means, like what are your thoughts on the fact that number one, Baker Mayfield, who was the number 1 pick in the draft, went for a 5th round conditional pick, and number 2, what does it mean for Carolina Panthers that they have 2 of the top 3 picks in the same draft, both of them quarterbacks on the team at the same time?
So what this tells me is that a lot of teams thought they were going to cut him eventually. So I think that's the best offer that they got, which is astonishing.
It's astonishing.
The guy won a playoff game, 18 months ago?
Beat the Steelers back-to-back games. One didn't matter really, but then one did. You know, last game of the season, they beat them in a game that really didn't matter. But then the next week was in the playoffs. Was that game in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
limited fans, but still.
And banged them pretty good, right? I mean, that was the game where there was all kinds of hell broke loose. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a guy who has won them the first playoff game in like 152 years.
I don't think it's the fact that, poor Baker Mayfield, like, oh, he's falling off the cliff. I think it's the fact that they knew the Browns were screwed. And why give them a third-round pick or why give them whatever? It's like, all right, we got something for them, but
absolutely.
Now the Browns.
Dude, it's so weird. And you know what keeps playing in my head? I didn't even think of it till just now, but I keep thinking of it like on a daily basis when I see the new update of what's going on with this friggin' story. Do you remember what Cleveland kind of put out there or said when they first made this trade? It was that they want an adult in the room.
Yes.
So now you're telling me the adult is the guy who's like lassoing his dick on massage therapists and not the guy who makes too many commercials and like gets too emotional? Like that's the grown up? I'm just checking.
That's the grown up.
I just want to know that the guy who is swinging his schwandel,
or Jacoby Brissett's the grown up.
Well, at this point, he is clearly the most grown up person. Did you think at any point they were because? All right, so I'm going to skip down to the end of this section. That the NFL wants, at least they're putting out there, that they want to suspend Watson indefinitely.
Yeah.
Did you think when you heard that? Did you think maybe the Browns would keep Baker Mayfield and then trade him next year?
I definitely thought they wanted to. I don't think Baker was going to stand for that. I think he was
You don't think that would have been a good idea for him to say?
I do. I think he might have made. I think he might have made. And we've talked about this. I think he might have made the wrong decision there. However, and I'll get back into this in a minute with Carolina, but I think we said we love Cleveland's roster.
Sure,
both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if they made the playoffs again this year with him as the quarterback?
He's got all the leverage in the world.
He's dictating terms at that point, as opposed to right now.
Yeah, he had no say.
I'm not going to go as far as saying.
And in July, your options are very limited. What, there maybe 3 teams.
This is what I'm saying. Like, yeah. I'm not going to go as far as saying he got stuck in Carolina, because I do think there are some pieces there. Let's not forget that team was like 5-1 to start the season last year. Now, that was against the Jets and that was against some pretty bad teams. And then Sam Darnold got hurt. McCaffrey got hurt. I'm not saying that was a playoff team. I'm not saying that was a great team, but they were 4-1, 5-1 at one point. You do have Robbie Anderson. You do have McCaffrey. You do have an improving defense, a young offensive, strong offensive head coach. Do you think it's a good spot for him?
I do. I do think it's a good spot for him. I know
think it's a better.
I know they have Matt Corral too. They drafted, but he's years away
this year. Yeah.
What's Sam's contract situation?
This is it. This is his 5th year. I'm going to get to that in a minute.
So I think Baker wins the job. I don't know.
I think he wins the job, and I think as far as Carolina goes, that's a better spot for him than Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, well, listen, there are some really nice weapons there in Seattle, but I don't know. I don't know that Baker Mayfield in Seattle. I don't know that works. He's kind of more country boy. I don't like the bad weather with him up there. The bad offensive line where Russ dealt with.
Yep. Their defense is in shambles now, so it's going to be.
That's what I'm saying. I think this is a team on the rise, and Seattle's a team.
Let's go divisions, bro. Day.
Absolutely. Who's in the division with Carolina? I got Atlanta.
You got Tampa Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, other than Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa's pretty settled. New Orleans is we don't know what New Orleans is.
We don't know.
Gen quarterback and rosters, cap space, everything else. And Atlanta just traded their franchise quarterback. Yeah. They're Marcus Mariota at the helm. I think we both kind of like their head coach, but I don't know much about him. They have one of the best tight ends in the league, but Christ, what does that mean if you don't have a quarterback or a running back or anything else? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it actually ends up working out really well for him. Like I said, he's a country boy. Whether he likes it or not, he's a country boy. That's why he worked at Texas Tech. That's why he worked at Oklahoma. That kind of like, aw shucks, chip on my shoulder. I'm sorry, that actually plays really well in Carolina. I don't know that country boy, aw shucks, Brett Favre. I know Brett Favre made it work in Green Bay, but that's not for anything. Green
That's
Bay
the
is almost
exception
kind
to
of
the
country
rule
world too. It's not exactly middle, big city America. It'll be interesting. I agree totally. I think he wins the job. I think he wins it relatively easily. I don't think you make this trade if you're not planning on him starting. If you thought Sam Darnold was your guy, then why would you make the trade?
Correct.
So he'll have every opportunity to start, and I suspect he will. One thing you cannot say about Baker Mayfield is that he doesn't work hard or that he doesn't care. I think almost the problem is like he wears his emotion on his sleeve. He cares. I don't want to say he cares too much, but he shows how much he cares all the time. Yeah. And it also is like, dude, you need to be a little more, at least on the field, you need to be a little more even keel, or with the media, a little more even keel. I don't think the issue is he tries too hard or doesn't try hard enough, doesn't work hard enough. So he's going to go in there and work his tail off. That's always been his MO from the time he was at Texas Tech. He outworked everybody at Oklahoma, so yeah, it'll be interesting. In a way, I'm kind of happy for him because I feel like he got screwed with Cleveland, the way it all went down, the idea of that somehow Deshaun Watson is the grown-up in this situation. If the Watson situation never happened, then sure, he's the grown-up. That's what we thought of him at the time, right? Like he's the grown-up here, not but considering what's going on, to call him the grown-up, it's kind of actually embarrassing. And for me, I think for Baker Mayfield, it's good to get out of Cleveland, get a fresh start. Got some really nice weapons over there. You got Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, McCaffrey. That he's going to be okay over there. Better weather. Oh, by the way, in Definitely. Carolina, that'll be a lot more fun. So that'll be good for him.
You know what's funny to curveball this a little bit with Cleveland? I tell you, they're like the fucking Knicks, man. They as soon as you think they're kind of starting to figure it out a little bit, boom. Nope.
It makes you just wonder, was there something else going on? Like that you would take, or was it just compulsion by a compulsive owner to make this deal?
There's got to be more to it than that, right?
I don't know. Did a compulsive billionaire owner just say, I want this guy, I don't care, make it happen?
But there's a possibility when you did that that he never plays football again. You had no idea what was going on legally.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by compulsive.
Oh.
And did they really just not like Baker that much? It doesn't seem like his teammates hated him that much.
The only thing you heard was Odell Beckham's dad, but nobody cares.
Nobody cares what Odell. That's whatever. You got to always consider the story, right? Like,
yeah. No, I don't know. It's.
Yeah, I'm actually happy for him.
It could still backfire, honestly. Like, there's a lot of left into this thing.
Cleveland? Oh my God, this is just beginning. This isn't. We haven't even gotten to games. Like I said to you, whatever it was a couple of weeks ago, I said, that every week, once he shows up, whether he's even just on the field in street clothes or once he's their starting quarterback, there'll be protests outside that building, outside that stadium, with hundreds of people. Like this is a serial sexual harasser, and you're paying him, the highest salary in the NFL guaranteed. It is kind of crazy when you think about it. I don't know. That's kind of nuts. Sam Darnold. Let's finish with this on this topic. Sam Darnold, is his career, I don't want to say is his career over, but is his starting career over? Is he the new Chase Daniels?
That's funny you said
He's
that.
The new Marcus Mariota?
I was thinking about it. Is his career over? But no, he's a better quarterback than there's a lot of backups in this league. He'll stick around a long time. But
that's what I'm saying.
I think his chances as a starter are his days are numbered there.
Yeah.
I think so.
By the way, there was a thing out there. It might have been Bleacher Report talking about Chase Daniels and how he's made $44 million over his career. I think he's got like 9 starts under his belt and like 11, whatever the hell it is.
Living the dream.
What a beautiful life. It's
unbelievable. My God.
But yeah, my guess is he'll be, if he wants to, I don't know how long he wants to. He has made some pretty good goddamn money in this league as a top 3 draft pick. Does he want to? I'm trying to think of how much he's probably made. He's probably made close, but after this year, because they picked up his contract, which was about $18 million, he's probably made close to $40 million by the end of this 5th-year contract. Do you want to keep playing anymore after that? I don't know. That depends how much you love.
I think a lot of these guys just try to keep playing because they don't want to be embarrassed.
That's a good point, man. I think you make a really good point.
I'm out of league in 4 years. My team didn't pick up my contract. I got traded. They didn't pick up my contract. I still feel like I got something to prove. I don't want to be I don't want to go back and coach my high school team. Like Rivers did, but Rivers played 21 years in a league. He's a Hall of Famer. Exactly.
But, you make a really good point. You don't want to be embarrassed. And it's a pretty decent living.
Yeah, you just said it.
I feel like for those guys that do it for that long, they really love football, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about Sam Darnold's love of football.
I never got that approach that he didn't love football. When he's out there, he's diving, he's running, he doesn't opt out of stuff.
These Southern California guys, these surfers, I always wonder how much they love. I look at oh my God,
Juju Smith.
No, the guy from for the Colts, played for Stanford, quarterback.
Andrew Luck.
I mean, just to walk away. And I get he was all banged up. But to say, well, I mean, he could have very easily just said, I need a year off.
Yeah.
And come back. And what he said
was, he's like a genius, and there's other stuff
he's saying. He said, I don't need this. I don't need football. I don't even know if he does anything else now, but he didn't need football.
Sam might need it. We don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I do think if the right situation came up, timing is everything, dude. The league, this is why Baker Mayfield, he didn't get traded right away. This is why Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the 49ers. The league is saturated with quarterbacks. Either you have a guy, you either have the guy, or you have a guy that you think could be the guy.
Yeah.
Like if you look around the league, like Zach Wilson, who's the kid in Jacksonville?
Trevor
Lawrence, even Justin Fields, who we don't like. But if you're Chicago, you're like, you're not replacing him yet. He might be your guy, even in Houston with Mills. You look around the league and teams either have their guy or they have someone who think could eventually be their guy.
Yeah.
Now, 3 years from now, that may very well not be the case. All those jobs, Chicago might be open, Houston might be open, New Orleans might be open, Miami might be open. And then
Tampa, Green Bay are going to be open at some point.
Absolutely. Good point. Yep. Because they got aging quarterbacks. So even San Francisco, you never know if what's his face is not good.
Yep.
So 2-3 years from now, all of a sudden Sam Darnold looks attractive again, because even that was a rumor about him going to San Francisco because he's a California guy. Who knows?
Well, put it this way.
Right now, the pickings are slim. You're a backup.
Mariota's getting a second chance. Sam Darnold's possible to get a second chance. So
Absolutely.
Let's not close the door yet, but it's not looking great right now.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Hey, camps start soon. I think within the next couple weeks. They don't all start at the same exact time, but within the next 2 weeks, all NFL camps are starting. And I specifically didn't want to give you a heads up on this because I wanted to kind of get your visceral answer to this question. What teams, and you can name as many as you want. I have 3, but you can name 1, 2, 3, 5. I don't care. What teams are you kind of interested, more like intrigued? It doesn't have to be for a good reason. It could just be for any reason.
Oh, dude, I got more than one.
What teams are you kind of intrigued to see what goes on in their camps this year?
Off the top of my head, for some reason, I don't know, because it's local, the Giants.
Okay.
The Giants for me, man.
Is it so? Why?
New head coach, which I'm a big fan of.
For good reason. And Daniel Jones, right?
And Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And Saquon Barkley. Defensive coordinator with a lot of merit.
Expensive, wide receiver room that totally sucks.
Yeah, that totally sucks.
See if Abel can turn this
around. They keep thinking they're rebuilding the offensive line, and it never really ships up that way.
Yeah.
They're going to try again.
Yeah.
And, having a lot of buddies that are Giant fans with Giant season tickets and everything else, it's just something that's always a topic around us.
I'll give you one.
Go ahead.
I'll give you one for me that's semi-local, kind of like on the East Coast, is the Patriots. I look at the rest of the division, and every single one of the teams other than the Patriots improved. And that includes Buffalo, which is hard to say because they were quite possibly the best team in the league last year. And then they go and get Von Miller. Miami clearly upgraded with trades, draft, upgraded their line. Maybe Tua by the second half of the season looked a lot better last year. And while I don't think the Jets are a playoff team this coming season, they certainly made some moves that are going to improve them. They got guys coming off injuries, namely like Mekhi Becton at tackle and Carl Lawson at defensive end. People forget, like, they signed Carl Lawson last year, who was one of the best, probably the best pass rusher. I've had a couple bourbons, so I'm having a little trouble here. Carl Lawson was probably the most coveted pass rusher in free agency last year. The Jets landed him, and he blew out his Achilles. We kind of forgot that he was on that team, and he's coming back this year, fresh, didn't play a whole season. So, you know, we look at all the moves that they've made, and we're forgetting that he's there too. Didn't even get the team. It's almost like that's a new trade because he wasn't there last year.
Dude, you're gonna have to help me with this one. The middle linebacker from the Ravens,
C.J. Mosley.
You forget that he's on the goddamn team.
You do, and he's an all-pro player, right? When he's surrounded with better players. Quinn and Williams, they make trades on Lake and Tomlinson. Like, they've improved. Miami's improved. Buffalo's improved. I look at it and I say to Patriots, did they even take a step back?
I think so.
They're almost worse than they were last year. They don't have an offensive coordinator, or it's going to be Matt Patricia, who was their defensive coordinator before he took the job in Detroit. Maybe he's calling plays. I don't know what's going on there, and far be it from me to, you know, full-throatedly, criticize Bill Belichick. But let's be honest, dude. Since Tom Brady hasn't been there, it's been a bit of a dumpster fire. They have made chicken salad out of chicken shit with what's his name, with Mac Jones at quarterback. But let's also remember that the offense coordinator isn't there anymore. So
it's so funny, dude. I like him too. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. I like Mac Jones, but they don't really surround him with anybody. Like the tight ends last year, the one was all right, the other one was a total bust.
Yeah.
The running game's great. The running game's always been great. Like it's
just they're an odd team. You know, you can never discount them because
their defense is old now, man. It's like it's.
So yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm just fascinated to see what they do. You know, what are the reports coming out of camp? Like, I look and I say, what did they do this offseason? They lost coordinators. They lost a couple players. Mac Jones looks like he's in better shape. I don't know. Does that mean his arm is stronger? I don't know. You know, so I'm just fascinated to see what they look like coming out of camp or going into camp, during camp. You know, I guess what I'm looking at is like, when I'm asking you this is like, you know, the beauty of when camp starts is, you know, NFL Network, Fox Sports, and ESPN will have, you know, reporters embedded in camp, and they just are at that camp. And I'm fascinated to see what those reports are that are coming out of the Patriots camp. And we'll get it from all of them because they're the Patriots and it's Belichick, you know, and they love to do Belichick's still there and Brady's not there. So how are they? And I'm interested just to see how that looks. Not because of the Jets, just because it's just odd. They had a very strange offseason.
I'll give you one more quick.
Yeah.
Steelers.
Okay.
Is it Trubisky? Do they give Kenny Pickett a shot right away? They wait down the line. Does Trubisky hold them off all year?
Because according to Chris Sims, Trubisky's better than Goff.
Oh my God. Well, Fields is better than Trubisky.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, sorry, we had to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But their defense is improved. You know, maybe they get a little bullshit out of the fucking with Juju leaving. Maybe there was a lot of crap with him, with the dancing, with all who knows. Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, the Harris, they got weapons for these guys.
They do.
Division's tough.
Always is.
Pittsburgh's always in the playoffs, are right there. Tomlin's never had a losing record. My brother points that out on a weekly basis.
Do you think this is the year?
I don't. No.
You think they still have a winning record?
Okay. Because I think Trubisky or Pickett is going to have a better downfield pass game than what Ben gave them last year.
Yeah.
So, and if everything else stays the same, Ben couldn't throw the ball. Ben couldn't throw the ball 20 yards unless he took a step back and heaved it.
Yeah.
It was over.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that's an interesting one for me. I don't know, just a team that we've kind of taken as a second
Eagles.
A second team that
Lions. Let's go.
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah. Listen, they've made some moves. They strengthened their offensive line. They strengthened their defense. They gave Goff some weapons to throw to. We know that players were selling Campbell as their head coach. We reported this, maybe right before the draft or right before free agency started, we said, look at this. Players on the team, contrary to what, your Colin Cowherds and your Skip Baylesses were saying about Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions players were going out there calling their buddies on other teams that are free agents and saying, dude, you want to play for this guy, man. I'm telling you. That, to me, is almost all you need to hear. And I'm fascinated to see what camp looks like this year, considering that this was a team that won, what would they win, 2-3 games last year?
Three
at least games.
3, maybe 4, but at least 3.
But yet there's buzz.
And they could have won 7
easily. Yes.
65-yard field goal to lose a game. Like, that's all you need to know.
Right. So it just, I'm fascinated to see, like, does Goff get a little fire lit under his ass? Because
I think a lot of them do. I think confidence has got to be high. I think now that the coach proved himself, Goff looked like he wasn't dead second half of the year.
Yes.
Great running back.
Pretty good.
He had a great draft again, second year in a row.
I saw guts in that team from start to finish. Dude, it's a long season. It's one thing to start the season on fire and playing hard. It's a whole nother one to lose a lot of games and keep playing hard right down to the stretch. We kind of said the same thing with Houston Texans. There's something there. I'm just fascinated to see what kind of reports are coming out of camp and what happens with Detroit. So,
and listen, I think Packers took a step back. I know Aaron Rodgers is there. I think they took a step back. Chicago's a mess.
Yep.
And what's Minnesota?
Yeah. I was just going to say, you never know what you're going to get from Minnesota. We all have these high expectations with Minnesota, but it seems like no matter what we think we're going to get out of the Vikings, we always get a little less. Well, like they never overachieve.
Last week when we were doing our week to week, every other week it was like, we don't know, Vikings.
Yeah.
Chargers, Vikings.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
you're too high, too low, don't know. I think the Vikings were perpetually on the don't know list.
And I feel like they're more of a fantasy interest than an NFL, like a winning NFL franchise interest.
You know what game I'm thinking of, and this like encapsulates the Vikings to a T. Do you remember Dak got a little banged up and Cowboys went to play at
Vikings, Sunday night or Monday night?
Yeah, I said if there was ever a game for the Cowboys just to mail it in, they were like 4-0 or 4-1 or 5-1 at the time, whatever the hell they were. I said, if there's one to mail in because it doesn't really matter, it's this one. Because you're on the road, Dak's not playing, Minnesota needs a win desperately, and they laid an egg and they scored like 10 points.
Yeah.
I'm like, see, that's what I mean. They always find a way to underachieve, do just enough not to look great. And then other games when they shouldn't win, they'll find a way to win. But in those spots, so yeah, I could see Detroit surprising some teams. I don't know if they're a playoff team yet, but really being kind of like, an ant in people's pants, like a real pain in the ass. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see what happens with them. Can you think of any others?
Well, just close to home, Denver.
Of course.
Obviously. Sure. I mean, that's just.
I would think that whole division.
It's a big change.
Number one, you want to see how does Russell Wilson adjust, with the new team.
First-time head coach, too.
First-time head coach, new team. And then how healthy, to me, that division, how healthy does all those teams stay coming out of camp into the season? Because, God, the space between each one of those teams, including the Raiders, they made some massive upgrades. The space between each of those teams is so small. A significant injury here or there could make all the difference, not just for the team that has the injury, but the teams that are right next to them, above or below. It can make all the difference in the world. That whole division is just fascinating to me. We'll certainly do a breakdown of that when we do our preseason insight into each division. But yeah, I could see that. The other team for me, and this is the third one that I had, the last one I had, I'm really interested to see what happens to the 49ers because I just love the drama. You have Jimmy Garoppolo is still there. They have not traded him. You'd have to go back at least a couple weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks before there's even been a whisper about any kind of movement. I get the sense that they're going to hang on to him. And I'm fascinated to see because, camp goes for almost a month and a half.
I think it's wise.
I'm fascinated to see. What's the kid's name? I always forget his name. Trey Lance. I don't know why I forget his name. It's always his first name that I forget. If he just doesn't look great, in camp as a starter. You got this guy who's taking you to the Super Bowl, has taken you to the NFC Championship game, and about 4.5 minutes from going to a second Super Bowl, that's just sitting there waiting to step in and do what he always does, which is win 75% of his games. And I'm just intrigued to see how that goes. I'm just fascinated. I look back and I say when Kittle was being interviewed on a number of different shows, and they're like, well, how does Trey Lance look? And he's like, he's young and he's aggressive and he's a great runner and
he's got a strong arm.
Yeah, and we'll see. And I'm like, he doesn't want Trey Lance to be the starter. He wants Jimmy Garoppolo because Garoppolo knew it was smart enough to get him the ball. And I guess you didn't see that as much when Trey Lance was quarterback. I'm just fascinated. The drama that's there, the quarterback intrigue, the brilliant Shanahan, see how he handles that. So those were the three teams that I like. It has nothing to do with like good or bad. It's just like, man, there's stories there that I'm interested in seeing how they go in camp. It's the camp part of it that I'm interested to see how that goes, So, hey, I don't want to forget, we do have our T-shirt giveaway coming up. We're starting to get some comments pouring in, and we appreciate that. You can comment on Facebook. You can comment on Instagram. You can comment on YouTube. Make sure you're a subscriber. And if we end up picking your name, you'll get a T-shirt of the team of your choice with the little BNR logo on there, of course. And all you have to do is leave a comment. Now, if you're smart and wise and confident, you can leave a voice message on Anchor. It's the only place on all these podcast platforms where you can actually leave a voicemail with the podcast that's going on. We will give you 5 entries into the contest. What could be better than that? So make sure you leave us a comment somewhere, somehow, some way, any way you like. But we'd love to have a voicemail message. And, find your voicemail right here on the show. Big news in college football this week. USC and UCLA are moving in 1 year from now to the Big Ten. Your conference there with Michigan. Number one, more than anything, before we even get into these two, what do you think about that as a Michigan fan?
As a Michigan fan,
does it sting a little?
I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think they're only going to play them like once every fucking 7 years.
Is that how it's going to end up?
Unless they change. Listen, when USC comes to Ann Arbor, it's going to be awesome. It's I want to try to get to it. It's a night game. Hopefully in November. A little chilly.
How kind of cool is it if you're Michigan to head out to UCLA and play in Pasadena?
I want to do that too. We just talked about our stadiums last week.
Yes, that's right.
So I would love to do that. Maybe you could hitch the wagon to that one down the road.
Got free time now.
I think. Listen, I think it's from a favorite team standpoint. I think it's all right. I'm not like juice one way or the other. But Lincoln Riley
makes it more. You got to believe it makes it more difficult in the long run for Michigan.
Sure. It makes it harder for USC as well.
Yeah. Oh my. Way harder.
UCLA's whatever, but right now Chip Kelly's doing a decent job there.
Doing a very good job there. Yeah.
USC's been bad for a while. We think Lincoln Riley's going to do a good job. We're 75% he's going to do a good job, but
let me remind all our listeners that when we did overrated, underrated coaches in either NFL or college, Professor Bracy here decided that what the hell's his name?
Well, if you're gonna fuck with me, you got to get the name right. Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley is overrated. And at the time, I kind of gave you a lot of shit about it. And the more I think about it, what has he really done other than beat Texas and win
a crappy Big 12?
Big 12, a very crappy, very soft Big 12.
And
you make a really good point. And I'm not trying to say he's not a good coach. He's a very good coach.
Right.
Let's not crown him Nick Saban and the championship is already done within 3 years. I get it. It's USC. You have Southern California recruiting. You're not recruiting against crap, though. You're recruiting against Chip Kelly, who is one of the best that we've seen in the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
So you do make a valid point there.
And he also gets out of the Big 12 to, like, you think Pac-12's easier? Boom.
Now you're in the Big 10. Right. Now you're competing.
And now how about a nice November 9th Saturday afternoon in fucking Minnesota?
Right. Or in Michigan as opposed to Oregon. Let me ask you.
And Arizona State.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's hot, coach. let me give you a scenario here.
Go ahead.
Because let's just say you do play. There's no schedule yet, right? We wouldn't know who's playing who that
they're
first year.
They're gonna have to tear down the schedule now. The Michigan had one. The Big Ten had one. I think they go 4 years out, but now you got to tear it down.
Give me this scenario. Go ahead. Season 1, game 4, Michigan down in Southern California at the LA Coliseum playing USC. Michigan wins 27-13. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that Southern California is a big spot that Harbaugh has been able to hit really hard with recruiting. Does that game then open up, say, hey, would you want to play for a loser or do you want to come play for a winner in Michigan?
It's got to a little bit. But you could reverse
that. Does that have something to do with why this – I mean, let's be honest. They had to get the blessing of Ohio State and Michigan, maybe Wisconsin, maybe Penn State.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
Everyone else,
nothing.
You're just tagging along.
And frankly, if you're Maryland and Rutgers, you should try to get out of this conference as soon as humanly possible. Unless it's just about money. If it's just about money, then so be it. But you're never going to be good in basketball. You're never going to be good in football in this conference. You should leave and go to probably ACC or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what I'm curious. Do you think that it opens up some recruiting avenues into California? Frankly, if you're Ohio State, no different. Like you beat and I would suspect that Ohio State is going to be better than USC and UCLA for the first few years of this. Does that open? When I watch ESPN games and ABC games and I see Ohio State, I don't see a lot of kids from Southern California on that roster.
No, it's Florida.
They do. Yeah. They have done well in Florida, Texas, the southern states, but not California. Does it open up that portal there?
So when Lloyd Carr was at Michigan, we're going back to 94, 95 to 2006, 2007. He had a lot of California guys. Amaya Toomer, Leon Hall, a couple guys off the top of my head. Matt Gutierrez was backup quarterback there. What's that power? De La Salle High School out there. They had a couple guys. For sure. So Lloyd Carr had California often. But with Rich Rod was more Florida, and Brady Hoke, who knows, more Midwest, and then Harbaugh's all over the place. But this year, they made a specific effort to hire a guy that's California-based to get more speed, get tougher. California's not big linemen, but more speed on the outside, defensive backs.
Yeah.
They got 3 defensive backs, I think, this year from California, Arizona, that West Coast. So now with the addition of this, it could only help that.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering. Do you think it helps?
Because now either UCLA or USC, you're going up there twice a year or every other year or whatever it is. So
right. So that's fascinating to me. Why do you think these two teams made the move? Do you think the Pac-12 is just too soft?
I heard the TV deal that they hated the TV deal. Whatever TV deal got screwed up there, they hated it.
That could be renegotiated or the next week could be better.
Especially now. Everything just feels like you're getting ripped up and restart every year now. Yeah. So you're right about that. But I think, they're the two big dogs in the conference. Like Michigan, Ohio State are in the Big Ten. They're the big dogs in the Pac-12.
So you think the Pac-12 was just too weak and it was just a disrespected conference and they weren't getting the love for the playoffs and all that kind of stuff?
I think now you get coast to coast. You get New York. You get Chicago, you get LA.
Yeah.
That's enormous, I think, if you look at it from that point of view.
Right.
Let's face it, the football and basketball are your money makers in college.
Of course. Yeah.
So if you look at it from that point of view, you got a top 10 program, you got top 10 blue blood football USC, top 10, top maybe 6 blue blood basketball UCLA.
Right.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
And as you said, Rutgers and Maryland, get the fuck out and get out fast. Maryland, I thought was going to do okay here. They have not.
No, I don't see why they would.
They haven't gotten off the. They're losing coaches every 2-3 years too.
Both of those teams never made any sense to me. They're obvious ACC Atlantic. They're on the Atlantic Coast, Atlantic Coast Conference. So give me a break. They should not have ever even been in a Big Ten. They're getting just swallowed up. They're bottom third every year in everything. So it just doesn't make any sense to me, other than it's just a money grab, which is fine. That's okay, but then it's just a money grab, and it's just embarrassing to me. I look around the country and I say, like, who else does that? Like, there's not too many teams that just like, I don't know, Wake Forest, but they're where they're supposed to be. And they show up every 3rd or 4th year. They show up with a decent team of loaded, when they're loaded with seniors, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's. Vanderbilt, but they're where they're supposed to be. That's they're in the SEC, but that's their region. It's Tennessee, that's North Carolina. They're where they're supposed to be. You're in New Jersey and Maryland, and you're playing in a Big Ten, which is basically a Midwestern conference. Like, I don't get that at all.
I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, hello. How does this work for Rutgers crew? Wednesday, women's crew on a Wednesday. You're gonna go out to UCLA? So was that a week? Was that like?
Well, this is the whole thing, right? Like, we know, like we've talked about this previously. Football and some basketball pays for everything else. And
I'm not saying money. I'm saying that's a lot of time travel, dude. That is
what I'm trying to tell you is I think it's just a matter of time before some of these sports end up just getting eliminated.
Yeah, that's what I was
like. You're going to continue. You're going to like. You make a great point. You're going to pay for Penn State women's tennis team to go play out at USC,
right?
Now you're talking about higher gas prices, higher traveling expenses, higher food expenses. Now, granted, these schools have billions of dollars and they have massive TV deals, but something's got to give, and that can't go on forever.
And now it's easier for USC and UCLA to commit. So, say baseball, you play 4 3-game series, 12 days. You maybe play a doubleheader in there. You hit Michigan, Michigan State, Northwestern, Illinois. Boom, great.
In one trip.
But for the Big Ten teams now to go over there and do it, it's not as pretty because it's only 6 days instead of now. Like,
yeah. So that's been the concern with a lot of this stuff. This is different than even Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, because even that isn't the same travel as coming from California to New Jersey or to Maryland or to Penn State. Yeah, that's. I mean, listen, it's all a flight. It's all one flight. But that's a big flight. Like,
it is a big flight.
This is no longer like regional conference. This is a national conference. Even a SEC with the pickup of Texas and Oklahoma, it's still relatively regional. It's Southeast. And Texas and Oklahoma make it like more South Central. I mean, Texas A&M was already in that conference. I mean,
and Missouri too, right next to it. Yeah.
Texas to Louisiana, if they wanted to, I don't know, maybe they do. I don't even know. It's still a bus ride. Texas to Alabama is still a bus ride if they wanted to. I don't know. They probably take a flight for the football team, but I bet you the golf team doesn't take a flight.
Yeah.
I bet you like the swim team isn't on a flight. They probably take a bus for a 6-hour ride, 7-hour ride. So maybe they have to take a flight.
Michigan and Ohio State still take the bus to them. It's like a famous thing. Like
USC and UCLA to go play around in the golf tournament at Rutgers somewhere here in New Jersey at Trump National. That's that could add up, and you can start to see teams, because what we noticed, and I guess you can go back to when Texas A&M joined the SEC, but really it became an issue when Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12, that these conferences are becoming more nationalized as opposed to regional. This is only going to happen more, and it's just going to put schools like, maybe it's not USC and UCLA or Michigan and Ohio State who have to make those decisions, but maybe a Rutgers and a Maryland do make the decision, and a Vanderbilt and, I'm trying to think of who else.
Duke?
Maybe, Duke is loaded with all kinds of money, but like there are different schools that might say, I don't know that, the crew team is worth it anymore. It doesn't have to be that everybody in the conference decides we're not doing this anymore. It could just be a few teams that say we're not doing this anymore. And all that does more than anything is there's fewer scholarships for fewer kids to do those sports and get an education, which kind of sucks. So it's the kind of stuff, you bring up a great point, man. It's the kind of thing that most people don't really talk about when these kind of things happen. We only think football, basketball. It's a much bigger college experience out there. I don't know. Maybe band members start to get cut. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, there are repercussions for this kind of thing. And so we'll see.
What's next? I've a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, please.
I was big on this topic this week.
Yeah.
What's next for college football? You said expanding's probably not done. Is the Pac-12 done? Is the Pac-12 like disintegrate? Is the Big 12 going to disintegrate? Are they going to combine it? Is the Big 10 done adding teams? Like, this is nuts.
I don't think so. I don't think any of it's done. I don't know what it means. Pac-12 commissioner kind of and higher ups came out and said that they're looking into, teams to expand their conference. I don't know what that looks like. Is that Boise State? I don't know. Hey, if you're Pac-12, I would seriously have conversations with whoever's left in the Big 12 and say, should we make one big super conference?
Definitely, yeah. Why not?
I think that would be kind of interesting. It's almost like,
and that's closer region than what we're talking about now.
Totally, that's a much more regional situation.
Except West Virginia, but they could bounce and go somewhere else too at this point.
They shouldn't be in the Big 12 anyway. Yeah, they don't fit either. They should probably be an ACC team. So no, this isn't done. And I just think what happens more than anything is little things will get squeezed. And the colleges won't care, and most people won't care, because what do you really care? Do you care about the crew team? I don't even know if Wisconsin has a crew team. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Not, yeah.
You know what I mean? But if they do, it probably won't be for long. Now, maybe Wisconsin's a bad example, but I'm sure Rutgers does, because crew is kind of big in this area with all the rivers and streams, and in New York, Philly area. There is a lot of crew teams in high schools for sure, especially down here by me. I got a feeling you get squeezed, or else you just say it becomes almost like a club team as opposed to like a nationally competing team. It's hard to that travel becomes an issue. It just becomes an issue. And it's like, where do you want to allocate your money? You really want to allocate that? Because you're trying to remember now, you're Rutgers. You're trying to compete with USC. You're trying to compete with UCLA. You want to allocate money to fucking crew? No offense, you're talking about 10 guys, 10 girls? Or do you want to, allocate that money to your basketball team, to your football team, maybe your baseball team? That might be interesting. Wrestling? Yeah, I mean, because Jersey's got some really good wrestling, so maybe that's someplace you pour money into. I don't know. Something will lose. That I can tell you. Whereas when you're more regional, you don't have to do that. You don't have to look at it that way. But somebody will pay a price. Some team will pay a price. And when you consider Title IX, which is basically means that the girls have to have the same access to sports as the guys do, you'll have to cut both. You'll get cuts at both. I don't know. Maybe gymnastics takes a hit, and we just say gymnastics now is something that's done by the Olympic Committee or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. You know what I mean? So, which again reduces who's
going to
able to compete.
Yeah.
So
one more for you, and then we'll bounce off this. So now 16.
Well, I have a question for you after that.
Okay, good. 16 teams in the Big 10, 16 teams in the SEC. Scheduling, like I've talked about when we started this topic, is going to be an issue. For example, Michigan has played Wisconsin every year since 2016. Now they're off. They play Northwestern, Nebraska, Illinois, and Purdue once or twice in that span. Now you add 2 more teams to this thing. Now, you're going to play Michigan State every year. You're going to play Ohio State every year. So there's probably going to be an agreement where you got to figure, right? You got to keep 2 rivals. That's got to be in the agreement. UCLA is going to want to play USC every year, vice versa. Indiana and Purdue, Northwestern Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin. You got your.
Somebody's going to have to give, though.
That's what I mean.
Well,
now you play 9 conference games. You go to 10.
I would prefer to see that and get rid of some BS out of conference game.
Right.
And this is what's going to happen with the SEC, I would think, at some point. Like the idea that you might play, and it would be the Big Ten, same. Like that you may play a team once every 3 or 4 years, but yet you'll play Louisiana Tech if you're Alabama.
Yeah.
Like that's absurd. And I would almost think like the NCAA should have a mandate for such. If you're going to have these mega conferences, then you need to play teams in your conference. You shouldn't be searching out of conference for games. I don't understand why you are in the first place. If you're looking to fill your schedule, you don't need to go out of conference. You have more than enough teams in your conference to fill your schedule.
You bring up a great point.
It's ridiculous that they do it in the first place.
So for years, and I'm just bringing up Michigan because I know it well. For years, Indiana would give Michigan a problem because they would play in fucking November right before Ohio State.
Right.
So Michigan's not trying to show any plays and blah blah blah. Indiana's hanging around.
It's a tight game.
You know Alabama plays before Auburn? The Citadel.
That's what I'm saying, like Louisiana Tech or something.
Like come on, man. Like Like, how does the SEC get away with that?
And they shouldn't. And this is what I'm saying. Like and maybe the NCAA will. The SEC, they have new leadership coming in. You can't. I don't understand how you're even allowed to do this in the first place. You could say, well, you only got to have 8 conference games. Why? You have a conference. Why do you need to go play Eastern Michigan if you're Michigan?
They say that they give those schools money. They keep.
But that's not why Michigan's doing it. Michigan, or Ohio State, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts.
No,
Alabama isn't playing Citadel. Oh, you know what? I would like to play Tennessee this week, but we got so much money. I just want to give the Citadel $150,000. Like, that's not why you're doing it. You're looking for a week off. You're looking for a light week where you're not going to get banged up, and that's bullshit. And I think as the NCAA and we'll call them the governing body, although they don't govern very well at all. They seem to have no power on any circumstances that I can tell. But they should say, if you're going to make these mega conferences, you have no argument to be made to go out of conference and play Eastern Michigan. And now Eastern Michigan might be pissed, or Boise State, or
and it's funny. Now we all come back to the same circle. Are you cutting programs because Eastern Michigan can't go play in fucking Ohio State?
Yeah,
and or they got to go travel. They got to go travel to UCLA.
That very well may happen.
It's crazy.
It very well may happen, but I don't think it's right. And maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe you could have one at a conference game, and if there's 16 teams or 14 teams in a Big Ten, and each one can play one at a conference game. Well, there's still 14 teams that are getting to play. Getting a big payday, and you know what? You're getting a bigger contract, so you can make that payday a bigger payday for those teams.
The whole
Western Michigan needs a payday, then give them $1 million instead of just $200,000.
Yeah. All right, Toledo goes to Ohio State. Western goes to Michigan.
Right.
Eastern goes to Michigan State.
You get one.
The whole conference. That's it.
Come on, it's absurd. That you make the with the Alabama playing the Citadel. I mean, come on, that's not even a scrimmage. I mean, it really isn't even a competition. Nobody's questioning whether or not they're going to win. I know I love to break your balls about App State beating, Michigan, but that was a once in a century game. Like that happened. It's once. Come on, it's just we're not banking on that. We're not. Why does it keep coming up? Because it's insanely rare. It was impossible. So it makes it so cool. That's what made it so fun. That's why we were calling you. It wasn't. If you were at the, let's say that day you were at that game when they played App State, let's say that was Indiana. We're not calling you 30 times because Indiana was winning. I mean, it would have been an upset, but it wouldn't have been earth-shattering. It was crazy because it was impossible. We don't bank on that. We know it's a payday.
But I think that's what they're afraid of, losing that kind of shit.
Well, Eastern Michigan might be, but nobody else is.
Nobody else is.
And like I said, like you just brought up, then you can still have one.
But
if we're so concerned about these small schools, which it doesn't seem to me anybody's really concerned about it, then you can jack up. You're getting better TV deals now. You're getting better attendance. You're getting more money because of these mega conferences. So give a little more to these small schools that you feel so badly about. I'm sorry, but I just don't sit here thinking like the Florida Gators feel so bad for Florida A&M. That's the only reason. That's why they're playing Florida A&M, because they want to give away. They got too much money. I got to get rid of all this cash. It's like, what is it? Money laundering from the Mexican cartel. Like, we got to find a way to put this money into something. So we'll give it to Florida A&M to, cough up a 56-0 loss on a Saturday afternoon in October. Give me a break. Yeah. Who's feeling bad for them? Is that what Alabama's thinking? Oh, I would love to play Vanderbilt next week, but we got to give money to Alabama State this weekend because, they need to survive too. Okay, Nick, that's what you're worried about, right?
The bourbon's kicked in, folks.
You're feeling so bad for Alabama A&M, agriculture and mining. Okay, military, whatever the hell it is.
Manufacturing.
Whatever. So, here's what do you think this is a good move for USC and UCLA? And UCLA. It's not so cut and dry, right?
It's not. Short term, I think it's going to be obviously exciting. It's new. It's sexy. Blah blah. Long term, I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially if USC is not as good as people think they're going to be.
I think this is almost like an identical twin to Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC. Like, I think this is a really good move for USC, because I think USC is Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's going to be really, really good. Within 3 or 4 years, they're going to be neck and neck with Alabama in the SEC. I just think they are. They're Oklahoma. Huh? I really do.
I don't think so.
I think they already are. If you look at playoff games, they don't get blown out. They don't win, but they haven't gotten blown out. And I think after a couple years in that conference, they're going to be right there. We'll see. I think Nick Saban's not going to be at Alabama forever.
This is true.
He's going to die someday, or he's going to retire someday, or both. And I can say the same thing with USC. USC is USC. Like, they got a new coach. If Lincoln Riley didn't work out, they'd get somebody in there, whether it was Mike Tomlin or somebody else. You're going to get somebody, and it's friggin' USC. To me, UCLA is Texas. Like, we talked about how, like, I could really, really easily. Now, I know Texas has got a shit ton of money. They got, like, just endless resources. But I could see them getting caught in the kind of Tennessee level of being in an SEC, like middle of the pack, maybe just slightly above middle of the pack for a long time.
I think in both sports too.
And I could see that exact same thing happening with UCLA. I think UCLA was like a big fish in a small pond in the Pac-12. You put UCLA in a Big Ten, and I don't think they're ready to beat Wisconsin. I don't think they're ready to beat Penn State. They're not ready to beat Ohio State, Michigan. I don't know.
Michigan State?
I don't know that I think they can compete. I think they'll compete with Michigan State, but I don't know that they're ready for that level of physicality week in and week out. I can see UCLA, just like Texas, within 3 or 4 years, kind of being just above middle of the pack. Like, I don't know. I don't know that they're ready for that. I love Chip Kelly. I'm a big Chip Kelly fan as a college football coach. I think he's a great recruiter. Again, he's not going to be there forever. So, and not for anything, with this kind of move, if he smelled a job opening at a better school, which I wouldn't put that above him at all, I could see him moving. And then I could see UCLA just being kind of average in the Big Ten. I really could. And let's be honest.
Better or worse than Nebraska?
Better than Nebraska right now. But over time, maybe like the same.
Yeah.
Maybe like the same. I mean, do you have more faith in Nebraska football over the long term or UCLA football over the long term?
Well, that's a good question, because I think we're ready to tar and feather Scott Frost a couple of weeks last year.
He's got one season left,
another year.
He's got one season left.
Yeah, he's got to go at least. He's got to, what do you think, 7-5 seasons job or better than that?
I would think minimum. Yeah, I would think minimum.
Right. Yeah.
They stripped them of so much at this point. And I think that's where UCLA falls in.
He's a lot younger than Chip Kelly. Yeah,
I think UCLA is a better program than Northwestern.
I would buy Nebraska over UCLA. Yeah, probably.
And over the long haul, I'm looking at like long term. I think right now UCLA comes in and they're better because I think Chip Kelly's a good coach. I just don't know how long he stays. And if he's not there, UCLA is not a national championship contender. Like, you look historically at them when Donahue was there, they were a pretty good team for a while there. But like historically, they play second fiddle to USC. That just is what it is.
All right, here's one. I got one. Nah, that's not a good job.
Say it anyway. For Chip Kelly?
Yeah.
Say it anyway.
Colorado.
Well,
Pac-12 mixes with the Big 12. Colorado goes from the Big 12 to the Pac-12, back to the Big 12, whatever conference they decide to. Easier schedule. I mean, the weather's not as nice. I mean, Boulder's beautiful, but there's more snow.
The funny thing about that is Colorado has a lot of like Oregon feel to it.
And a lot of history.
There's history. There's that kind of like small town Oregon kind of feel to it.
Yep.
And who knows what happens with the Pac-12 if they do some kind of combo with the Big 12 or make some other kind of conference moves.
Do you want to finish first or second or third with them every year, or you want to finish ninth?
Well, to me, that's your point. Like, to me, if you were to, let's use Colorado as an example, you're competing for your conference championship every year now. Right. I mean, that's just who Chip Kelly is, right? I mean, he's going to compete for a championship every year. We expected that from him this year with UCLA. This coming season, we expect UCLA to compete for a championship. They have everybody coming back. I still do, right? They're still in the Pac-12 this year. That it's not happening this season. So I expect UCLA to be better than USC this year. I do.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and I look at UCLA and I say, are you going to be better than Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and USC regularly?
And Michigan State and Wisconsin
regularly?
Yeah.
Dude, that's 5 or 6 teams right there. I think that's a big ask for UCLA. And I don't think it's a big ask for USC.
And then Iowa.
Yeah. Every year they're competitive. You know, Kirk Ferentz is basically the Mike Tomlin of college football. Interestingly enough, same colors.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yellow and black.
Yep.
So they're never bad. They're never great, but they're never bad. And they're always in your face and they're always physical. I mean, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers of the Big Ten right there.
No doubt.
So I just think I look at it and I say, man, you know, you're what I think Texas is going to be, like just above average. I don't think you're going to be bad, but Texas is, you know, they're good. They're going to be good. And now they just signed Arch. It looks like Arch Manning is going to go play there. So that's a big deal.
There's a full year to go. Just, you know, George and Bama are not going to stop recruiting them.
Yep, change his mind. That could be interesting. So, but I think for USC, I think it's great because you get more East Coast coverage. You know, you're competing against better teams week in and week out. So your ranking will be higher if you win those games, as opposed to like Oregon goes and they beat Ohio State, but they never got the recognition because they played in Pac-12 all of last year. Well, if you're beating Ohio State and then you go beat Wisconsin, then you beat Penn State, it's like, well, you're pretty good. You're a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's a big deal. I think that helps USC a lot. I think UCLA could get a little lost in the Big 12. It's a good conference, dude. I mean, what have we said? At the very least, it's the second best conference. And if you took Alabama out of the SEC, there's an argument to be made that the Big Ten is the best conference. So overall, you know, because you got Minnesota who's improved, you got Indiana who's been better. Wisconsin is always very good. Penn State always very good.
We thought Purdue was getting there.
Michigan State always pretty good. And then of course you have Michigan and Ohio State. So, you know, outside of Alabama, is that a better conference than the SEC? I don't know. From top to bottom, it probably is. Probably just not at the very top. It's probably not, but top to bottom, it probably is better. So now you're going to add a USC to that. But that's a big ask for UCLA, I think. So I don't know how that works for them in the long run, but we'll see about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll certainly be interesting. I can't wait to see it. And I think there's an argument to be made. If you're Chip Kelly, man, you go fucking balls to the wall this year. If you're UCLA trying to win this conference championship, and maybe make the playoff. You know, if you win the Pac-12 with one loss, you know, depending on how things shake out, he's got his whole team coming back. He's got that quarterback coming back that he's had there for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, they killed the 2 last names. Yeah.
You know, if you're a one-loss UCLA team, there's an argument to be made for you to make the playoffs. At least you'll be in the argument, which means you're a top 10 team. Probably better than USC.
And then you recruit your ass off for the next
right before you go into the Big Ten. So, you know, this will have a lot to do with it. That, you know, what happens this season will have a lot to do with what happens with UCLA, at least in the next 5 or 6 years. We got to run through a couple things here before we run out of time. KD is Kevin Durant requesting a trade. It is amazing to me how things change so quickly. It's amazing. So he wants a trade out of the Nets. And why? Because what? There's turmoil. Who built this team? You and your boy. It's almost like gross to me, because now this is like the ultimate inmates running the asylum situation scenario here. Oh, it's just too chaotic. You are the one who built this team. You and Kyrie put this team together. What do you mean it's too chaotic? That's your boy. And just a month ago, you were saying, I don't want to trade Kyrie. So I'm the temperamentalness of some of these NBA players is just too much. They're all Aaron Rodgers.
But then Kyrie opts in, but then wants a trade.
Says he wants to play for the Nets.
And then he wants to still play with KD going forward. They just want out of Brooklyn.
I don't think any of them know what the hell what any of them want.
Well, and also, like you said, you're the one who hired Steve Nash, basically, too.
Yes. And if you wanted him out, you could have had him out this year.
Yep.
You would have had no argument from anybody if you were like, he shouldn't be the coach anymore.
Would the Nets be smart to trade both of these guys now and just get rid of this shit and then just try to get some?
See, the problem is they're so stuck. They've traded away so many draft picks to get KD, to get Kyrie, we forget how much they gave up.
Kevin Garnett.
To get
Harden.
To get Harden. We forget about how much they gave up to get Harden, and that was like a 1.5 year deal. And you got nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. So what are you going to get in return? For KD, I don't know, man. I mean, he's arguably the best player in the NBA.
Dude, if he goes back to Golden State or something.
But what are they going to give him?
I mean, you got to lose so much respect for this guy, right? Like,
I already have.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Not as a player, but just as a person.
As a competitor. No,
not as a competitor, but as a person.
You don't think you took the easy way out 3 times and this?
No, I thought
it didn't work out for him here.
I think he's kind of dumb. Like I lose respect for him as a person. As like, you're not smart. You're a really talented basketball player, but you're not very bright because your decision making process is shit. I never gave him any heat for going to Golden State in the first place. Like, you're trying to go to buy a ring, or you're just going there to get a ring. That's his right. That's what free agency offers you. You can go where you want to. Back in the day, Charles Barkley went out to Phoenix because he thought that gave him the best opportunity, and he did have an opportunity to win a championship. Unfortunately, there was a guy named Michael Jordan that was still in the league, and it made it impossible for Phoenix to win.
I've heard of him.
This is the nature of free agency. You get to go where you want to go. I don't like forced trades. You had your chance. You left Golden State. That was your chance. And we're going to do this.
Yeah.
With Kyrie and Kyrie. We're going to be friends, and we're going to run this team. And it's been shown to be a piss poor decision. You got to live with it, dude. And the question just becomes, what are you getting in return? Like, Kevin Durant must realize that the Nets have to get something unbelievable in return. And who's willing to give that up? I want to play for Miami. Well, the only thing coming back from Miami that makes any sense is
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. And then what? Then you don't want to play in New Jersey in Miami at that point, right? Like, I don't know. We've mentioned for Kyrie, a good spot might be Dallas, and I can see that same thing for Kevin Durant. Like, Dallas might be a good spot, but what are you going to give him in return? This is the problem with a guy like this. This is why these kind of big trades very rarely happen, because, like, I don't know, maybe Portland is an option, because then maybe you can get like, what's his name in return?
Damian Lillard.
Damian Lillard, but like, he doesn't want to leave, and he doesn't want to come to Brooklyn to be by himself. Like,
right.
I don't see a trade happening. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but where? I genuinely don't know. I don't know who has no trade clauses. If you're the Clippers, if you were the Clippers, wouldn't you talk to them about
Paul George or
Paul
Kawhi?
George or Kawhi Leonard? Like, either one of them. Hey, is there a deal to be made with one of these guys? I don't know if they have no trade clauses. I don't know. Or would Kawhi just play like a bitch and be like, I'm not going, I'll retire? Like, these guys have.
You can definitely see that happen.
This is what happens when these guys have hundreds of millions of dollars already in the bank. They just be like, I won't play then. Like, they have way too much control in the NBA, and that's why,
that's how we got here in the first place.
Yes, and the problem is that KD can do the same thing. If you don't trade me, I will just retire, and you get nothing. And this is the conundrum that all these teams are in now. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You literally going to say, like, we get crap? You just want draft picks for maybe one of the top, at the very least, Kevin Durant's one of the 15 best players of all time, right?
Yeah.
He's 15, one of the 15 best players ever.
Yep.
I don't know if he's top 10, but he's top 15. You're going to get draft picks? Ugh. Like, oh my God. Like, that's just like nothing.
You sound like me in a scout call.
Oh, dude, it's just nothing. It's nothing. Draft picks. You don't have any idea what season are they going to be any good. What play? And then you have to remember, like, if you were to trade them anywhere, draft picks, that team is instantly better. And now that draft pick is no longer going to be like a top 10 draft pick.
Right.
Does Memphis want to trade Ja Morant? I don't know.
No.
Probably not, right? No. Is Kevin Durant better than Ja Morant, though?
For how long?
For how long? And now Ja Morant is like your fan favorite, your hometown favorite. We drafted him.
And to get a guy in Memphis, yeah. You think KD's going to waive his no trade to go to Memphis?
As you look around the league, what even makes sense? Like, he's making these. I want to go here, here, here. Well,
yeah, all right.
He might not have a trade partner there, brother. Doesn't always work like that. What does make sense?
Well, you hit. Listen, you hit Miami, Portland, LA Clippers.
I mean, is there a trade to be made?
I mean, you don't want to go anywhere near Philly. Fucking
oh my God! I actually heard somebody say that the other day with Kyrie. I'm like, Harden wanted out because of Kyrie, and now you're going to try to see if there's a maxi for Kyrie trade in there. Why on earth would Harden would be like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, people got to think these things through. Is there a trade?
Denver, Utah, but
Denver for what?
I know.
You think Kevin Durant?
I don't even think he would fit with Joker that well either, though. I don't think that'd be.
I don't know. That actually might be a good fit, but what would you give up to get him?
My Murray, Porter, who I don't even know how else.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
And
no.
Then your first round draft pick for the next 10 years. Like, it's got to be something fair. Devin Booker for Kevin Durant. Would you do it?
If I'm the Suns, I don't do it.
You don't? If I'm the Suns, I do.
Listen, Chris Paul's 40. He's close to 40.
You might have one more year to win a championship.
Yeah, and then you're going to suck again for the next.
You're going to suck again without him anyway. At least you got Kevin Durant there.
It won't. But Booker alone won't do it.
You wouldn't do that?
Booker alone wouldn't do it.
If you're Phoenix, you would. Well, okay, probably not. But Booker and something else.
Booker, Bridges, somebody else.
Booker's a piece. Booker's the main piece, though. Would you do it if you're Phoenix?
Booker's the main piece. It depends who the other guys are. I don't know, man. KD's 35, and he's a pain in the ass now.
Is KD 35? I think he's only 32.
Hold the phone.
Oh, you're going to go into that mini smart machine?
Hold the phone.
Kevin Durant. I'm saying he's 32.
As I hold the phone.
I'm saying he's 32. I'm thinking he's 32. 33.
He'll be 34 in September.
Damn. You're going to get – you got
3 years, 4 years?
Three good years that you can almost guarantee.
I think, dude, they are bleeding that orange dry, bro, with Chris Paul. Is he going to last?
Well, I'm saying Kevin Durant 3 years. You might get one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you're putting him with Chris Paul.
Yes. But, boy, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant together is pretty good.
Yeah, 10 years ago would have been fantastic. Now,
well, let me ask you this. If Kevin Durant was on the Suns this past season instead of Devin Booker, who didn't exactly play great in that last series, do you think they were in the finals instead of Golden State?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It was a good friggin' team. That was the best team in the league this year, Phoenix. That's what I'm saying. That's a team that's really close. I don't know, but if you're Phoenix, you're totally giving up 10 years for 3. You're trading. Forget about the players. The players don't matter because Kevin Durant's better than Devin Booker. It is what it is. But you're giving up 10 years of Devin Booker for 3, maybe 4 years of Kevin Durant. Would you do it? Because Chris Paul's nice, but you can replace Chris Paul. You can bring in another point guard.
I'll give you this. I'm easier to do it in the West because I think the West is a little easier now.
It is funny how it shifted, right?
Yeah, real quick, didn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only trade that's out there that's like reasonable. What does Miami have to give up? What were the other teams that he wanted to go to? It was Miami, Phoenix. I don't remember who else it was.
Lakers.
He put the Lakers on the list?
I think so.
I thought that was Kyrie. I think Kyrie.
Oh, maybe it was Kyrie.
Yeah, there was another team. I don't remember who it was. I don't know. What about the Bulls? Like with Zach LaVine, and could they make a move?
I don't know. I don't think so. Milwaukee?
For what?
Middleton.
Oh, come on.
I know. Well, that's
Giannis trade. You got to trade.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's like
impossible. That's what I mean. Like I don't. Who's willing to part ways? Your superstar has to be young enough and good enough, but not great enough. Like Giannis is too goddamn good, you know?
Yeah, Jokic or Doncic.
Like Memphis, like Ja Morant is so young and fun. You would have to be willing to like say you're giving up 13 years of Ja Morant for 3 years, but a chance at a championship. You know, I can't imagine Memphis doing that, but I could maybe see that happening in Phoenix. If the deal was right, I don't know where else it could be. Who else has that kind of young, emerging talent, but he's not so great, but you know you want to keep him? This is what I mean. Boston? Is there a trade? Is there a Boston trade out there?
I mean, they got some guys that you could definitely want. I mean, the guy from the Spurs, Murray, just got traded to the Hawks. Now you put him with Trae Young. I don't know. I feel like we're missing an obvious team, but I can't think about it.
I can't think of him either. This is what I just don't know. What something significant has to go back. And in the NBA, draft picks just aren't it. Like, unless you know there's a guy coming out.
Yeah, I mean.
Let me ask you something. If you're the Nets, would you consider doing something with New Orleans and Zion Williamson?
No.
Really?
No. I don't know. I want to see that fat fuck play 2 years before I start doing anything with trades.
But if you're worried that you're going to get nothing, would you take a flyer on a Zion Williamson and other pieces?
No.
Interesting.
No, but the Knicks would do it when he's on crutches and he's in intensive care. Knicks will trade.
We still have continuing controversy with the PGA, the LIV, and the DP Tour, which you seem to believe is something to do with the European Tour or whatever. I think we were ahead of the curve here when we talked like a month or so ago that something's got to get worked out. You know, the PGA locking these guys out is going to have a problem. It does look like there's some softening beginning to go on. Rory McIlroy, who was like hardcore FU to the LIV and guys who went there, has now, I'll just say, softened a little. Where do you think this is going? Like, what?
The PGA is going to have to. They're going to have to let them. They're going to have to.
They have to. This is kind of where we've been for the last few months now. Or you're going to have to, right?
Yep.
You just can't lock out the best players in the world forever.
No.
It doesn't even make sense to me. Now, what does make sense is kind of what we talked about, saying, hey, if you want to be on the PGA Tour, fine, you have to play a minimum of X number of events. But then doesn't that include like a Tiger Woods? This is what I keep bringing up. Like, once again, Tiger plays some exhibition and then he gets to play in a major. You can't claim injury, but then you can play in all the majors. Like, to keep your tour card, there has to be some kind of minimum. Now, in his defense, he's not off playing an LIV.
Right.
So, that's one thing. So it is a little different.
And he is the face of golf.
Sure, but if it's rules, then there's rules.
Well, that's what the PGA's got to figure out.
Right. And like I said to you, does NBC play like, because the commissioner or whatever, president of the PGA was saying that like these guys are taking blood money from Saudi Arabia. Is NBC on in Saudi Arabia? Is Golf Channel on in Saudi Arabia? Does PGA have any money coming from Saudi Arabia or the EAU? Give me a break, okay? Don't give me the holier than thou shit. You take your NBC blood money just like everybody else does. You got your big contract with CBS just like everybody else does. CBS has channels in, plays live television in Saudi Arabia, and they take that Saudi oil money just like anybody else does. I don't want to hear that shit. This holier than thou, you can suck it. There's no reason to me that these guys can't play. If you want to call them exhibitions, you want to call them, alternate type competitions, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. And if you want to come up with some kind of minimum that says to have your PGA card, you have to play X number, I don't think those players would have a problem with that. If you said, listen, there's 35 tournaments throughout the year, you need to play in 10, you need to play in 12 to be considered to keep your tour card, assuming no injuries, I don't think they would complain about that, because then you can pick and choose your LIV tournaments and your PGA tournaments plus your majors. And if you counted the majors as PGA Tour events,
right, then you're going to hit your
quota. As far
as
membership goes, so that's automatic 4, and then you got to come up with 8, 10 more to fulfill your PGA requirement. I don't think these guys would have a problem with that. I think the LIV would work with that. I think they would work with you and say, that's not a problem. We'll try to schedule tournaments on weeks where you don't have big tournaments. Let's work together. I think it has to come to that at some point, because this is just, to me, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We don't stop players who, NBA players who want to play in the Olympics or in the World Games. We don't say, well, if you're going to play in the World Games, you can't play in the NBA. That's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's an opportunity for them to make more money. They've been offered more money. And if it doesn't interfere with fulfilling some kind of commitment for the PGA, then they should. There's no way it doesn't come to that. Bryson DeChambeau, I think, just signed or is talking about a 4-year contract with LIV. They're throwing around too much money. It's not fair. And the PGA Tour exists to make money. Let's not this is not some like charitable organization. Although they commit money to charity, you're there to make money. You don't make any qualms about that. I don't know how much the commissioner or president of the PGA makes, but he makes a good living. You don't get to tell these guys that they can't make more money if it's out there. It needs to be some kind of agreement or some kind of, if you want to make some kind of minimum tournament.
Yeah, there's got to be a middle ground at some point.
Has to be. And it looks to me like sides are softening and there will be some kind of middle ground to come there. This week we have the Scottish Open.
Yeah, something like that.
Scottish Open, which will lead us into the formerly known as the British Open. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. Finally, I just wanted to throw this out to you, this Brittany Griner situation. Brittany Griner got arrested in Russia. She was playing basketball in Russia to make a little extra money because WNBA players don't make too much. And she had weed, vaping paraphernalia, contraband, and got arrested in Russia. And of course, they're going to take it to a whole nother level. What's the only reason I am even bringing this up is you're getting questions from both sides of, hey, if this was LeBron, wouldn't you get her out of there or get him out of there immediately, which is what Trump did in China. If you remember the, what are they, LaMelo or the Lagello, Angelo, whatever, one of those brothers.
The Bulls.
A ball brother, no homo, got caught and got arrested, and Trump got him out of there. Didn't care about politics. He got him out of there, and people are saying, well, why isn't Biden doing it more? If it was LeBron, you would be doing it. And then you got other people who are like, listen, there's political prisoners in Russia that you don't even know their names. And so this girl has a name, and there's attention being paid to it, way more attention than anybody else would get because you don't know who the hell they are.
Fair point.
So you're getting it from both sides, right? Like maybe nothing's being done, but it's certainly getting more attention than some regular schmuck that was from, Patterson that's in Russia right now in some gulag because you don't know who the hell he is. Nobody gives a shit, And
then you get the other side that go, well, you want to start comparing people. Maybe they're not as dumb to have weed in a foreign country either. Like,
yeah, maybe that's probably a good idea. If you're going to be in Russia or China, don't do dumb shit because they're always looking to break United States balls. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. I suspect that there will be something worked out, but I would also advise athletes, don't go to Russia. Don't go to China. I know basketball players will continue to go to China because China holds the NBA by the balls and it's a pretty firm grip, but it's just unwise. You make your bed, you sleep in it. What is also interesting about the Brittany Griner situation, I'm just throwing this out there, not to be Mr. Politics, but if you remember back shortly in history, I don't know, a couple years, Brittany Griner was a well-known kneeler. She loved to kneel. Country sucks. America sucks. Fuck the United States. Oppressors and all this shit. But now you want its help. You want the United States to come and the United States government to come and bail you out of a bad situation. Maybe kneeling wasn't the best idea. Maybe this country isn't as bad as you make it out to be. So take that. 71 in the books, my friend. Well done. Well done.
You too, pal. I got 5 names for you real quick. Number 5. 2021 All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, former Redskin, current 49ers offensive tackle. I know you're a fan, Mr. Trent Williams. Number 4, 4-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, 2000s All-Decade Team, monster lineman, Seahawks Hall of Fame offensive tackle Walter Jones. Number 3, 3-time All-Star, 3-time National League Reliever of the Year, Brewers current closer Josh Hader, who I'd like to see the Yankees get sometime down the road.
Okay.
Number 2, 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 1990s All-Decade Team, Jaguars, and recent Hall of Fame inductee Tony Baselli.
Fantastic lineman.
Number 1.
Smallest shoulder pads in the history of offensive linemen. They're basically like maxi pads on his shoulders.
Shock absorbers. Super Bowl 30 champion, 7-time All-Pro, 11-time Pro Bowler, 1990 and 2000 All-Decade Team. Maybe one of the best guards who ever lived. Made Emmitt Smith who he was. Cowboys Hall of Fame guard Larry Allen.
Larry Allen, fantastic. All right, I got some New York Yankees sports history for you and a little trivia to boot with it. Let's see if you got the answer. On this date, July 8th in 2000.
Today's July 7th, though, Coach.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking about tomorrow when this will go live. must have pulled the date on the calendar too hard. On this date, July 8th, we're recording on Friday. When you're listening on Friday, that's why I did it for that reason. The Yankees swept the Mets in a doubleheader, and in this game, one game was played at Yankee Stadium and one game was played at Shea. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You were a young feller back then, but you might remember. Question: do you know who the winning pitchers were that day?
What year was this?
2000, and it was a day that the Yankees played one game against the Mets. One game was at Yankee Stadium, and then they ran across town and they played a game at Shea. Can you imagine who the winning pitchers were? If you give me one of them, I'd be pretty impressed.
Al Leiter.
No. I'm going to give you one more shot to get me one. 2000.
Jose Contreras.
No. So you have Dwight Gooden.
Doc. For the Yankees.
And for the Yankees. And Roger Clemens for the Yankees. The Yankees swept that day.
Wow, nice.
And that is today, July 8th, which is Friday, not when we're recording on Thursday. Don't listen to Scotty. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I don't.
In Yankees history. Not too bad. It was a good day.
I
wonder, was that Clemens' first year with the Yankees?
No.
Dude, no. I remember that. I remember that day when he showed up at the stadium. What's her face? Oh my God! It's Roger Clemens. What the heck's her name?
Susan Waldman.
Susan Waldman lost her shit. Oh my
God.
George
Steinbrenner's box.
Oh my God! For Scott Bracey, I'm Pete Colasano. You've been listening to Bump and Run. We'll catch you guys next week.
Later.
All right. What time's your thing, you think?
Mercis wants us there at 6, but I'll probably be there around 6, I guess.
I would listen. Yeah. Never mess with a mom. You just don't mess with the moms.
Well, I was happy enough to be invited, and
it should be fun.
So, it's gonna be a good night.
All right, my dude, have a good time. Should be able to get this done tonight and get it out there to you.
Appreciate it, sir. I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Later.
Bye.